I am so thankful for you folks. I thought maybe we'd have a smattering of people here today. You are much more than a smattering, and I really appreciate you. And Lila and I just couldn't be happier to be with you guys. We're going to talk a little bit about a glance back of the year and then a dream forward. And we're going to go over some things today, and then we're going to have communion, and then we're going to go home and take a nap. So did the communion get passed out, or is it going out at the same time? It'll go out later. Okay, very good. This is the offering time that Chuck forgot, so we'll forgive him. Let's pray. Jesus, thank you for this chance to give and the chance to be a part of all you're doing. We just thank you for the many blessings you have poured out on this church. As we walk in step with you, Lord, this coming year, we ask that you would bless it and multiply it and make it meet the needs you've called us to. In your name, amen. Amen. They're going to pass that out. It was just a test, It was. Here's my glance back as the offering's being passed. We can do two things at once. The glance back on this coming year, Lila and I were innocently minding our own business over in the valley. And I remember the place I was at when I got a phone call from Jordan. And he said, "Hey, cowboy." And he always knows that bothers me because I'm a plowboy, not a cowboy. He said, "I think you better come over and pastor this church because I think Lacey and I have to be down here in Arizona." And I just was kind of quiet on the phone. I said, "Well, let me get back to you." I said, "Really?" I knew that the change was coming for this church. I just thought it wasn't me to be here. Because I knew that Jordan had expressed that he needed, and Lacey both had needed to make the change, and I knew it was coming, so it wasn't a surprise. But Lila and I guest spoke here, monthly for quite a while, and we loved it. And you guys wove yourselves into our hearts, and we loved it so much. The last time we were here in the spring, we kind of felt like, I think this might be our last visit because they're going to get a pastor here that's on site, and I knew Jordan and Lacey couldn't keep going on the path they were on, and we just knew it. And so I thought, I was a little bit sad about that because I love coming back. But then, wow, I got saddled in a wonderful way. I don't know if saddled's the right word to use in this church. Harnessed? There you go. There's plenty of words you can use that have agricultural meanings, but so a glance back. Lila and I became officially your pastors on August 1st, and we're so happy to be here. Now listen, we're part of a family of churches called the Praise Family of Churches. We planted a church in Monmouth and another one in McMinnville where we were. And then we have Puerto de Fe, Spanish-speaking church, pastored by Celso. We have a house for girls called the Harriet House in Monmouth, which we consider a church because it's got leadership and it's the same thing. And Mitchell, which you guys have been so helpful and part of, and which this coming year we're going to be putting up a parsonage for Pat and Gillet. You're all invited. So we had that. So I told the folks here, I said, "Well, we'll come, but we can't unhook." And they said, "Oh, we don't want you to. We'd love to be part of the Praise Family of Churches." So Shiloh is part of the Praise Family of Churches. We're 6 now, and we have a finance team that oversees everything. And they said, "Oh, that's great. Bring them on." So the warmth and the openness to us and the sense of interconnected dependency is going to be super healthy for us in all ways. Because I don't like to be alone ever. And I don't think it's healthy for churches to be, it's okay to have an independent streak, but if we're not careful, it can separate us from people that we need to be a part of. So this church is going to be a part of that. So the 1017 project this is the birthplace of the 1017 Project. And some people ask, well, what's happening to 1017? Well, 1017 outgrew our church, and it's a nationwide ministry. You are all going to receive, if you would like, and I'm going to encourage you to take some beef home today after church. They're going to hand it out to you from the 1017 Project, where you know somebody who is needy. Maybe it's even a family member who's struggling. Somebody nearby who would be blessed by some really nice lean ground beef. I have a single daughter in Portland who has just her whole world opens up when she has lean ground beef. She can make tacos, she can make stroganoff, burgers, and she just gets all excited when I drop off a little beef. This is a ministry of this church. It was born here. 1017, though, has its own 501c3. It's independent, and some people say, well, we kind of own it. No, we don't. But it was born here. It's kind of like my grown kids. They're still my kids, but they don't live here anymore. And I get to see them, and we get to talk to them, and we get to be a part of them. So there's been some adjustments to the 1017 Project, and I'm just going to give you some bullet points. Shiloh Ranch is extremely proud to be the birthplace of the 1017 Project. It's in our DNA as a church to bless others. Back in 2017, the project legally separated with its own 501c3. So some people thought, well, do I tithe just 1017? Well, it's a ministry, but it's not this church. So we have to be clear of that. I want you to be just aware of that. In Shiloh Ranch Church, with our facilities, is still a place where people can drop off cattle and donate them. We still have a role to play. And we're going to go through the first quarter financially and see what our financial picture is like and see what level of support we can continue to help with 1017. So just so you know, we're that place, okay? All in favor, say aye. I didn't mean to make this a business meeting. Sorry. It's in our DNA. This wood cutting thing has been amazing. And to see the people blessed. And Chuck, thank you for that story because that's what it's all about. And I think there's more of that ahead for us. And I want to just say we established a leadership team. I kind of just, there were some people that Jordan and Lacey had announced that were doing certain roles, and I just said, let's make them leaders. And so we have an official board that expanded from just the 2 or 3 that were left to a big group. And the Bible is very clear that there's safety in the counsel of many. In fact, I need a lot of safety. I will come up with the craziest ideas. If I don't have somebody to slow me down, anyway, just so you know. And our leadership team. If you're on that leadership team, we go from March to March, so your term is coming to an end, but then we can re-up in March if you'd like. If you're on the leadership team, would you stand and wave so people can know who you are and blame you? There are 2 or 3 of them. Yeah, come on. Chuck was slow to standing. We also took a step and established Katie as the pastor of administration. Katie Turpin, yay. This is not anything but just explaining what she is. And she has got her arms wrapped around this place in a beautiful way. We have new things coming up in the 2023. I want to just tell you this, and then I'll actually preach a sermon. I really feel strongly we're called to the generations. And to the generations coming behind us. The children ministry of this church is got to be phenomenal, and it already has amazing leaders, but we have to all get behind it because it's not an optional thing. The generations coming behind us are going to face a culture that is not so warm and fuzzy to the values that we hold in the biblical values. So we have to train our children and teach them who Jesus is. Teach them that they're created. Teach them that there's a Lord that loves them. And we also need to teach them that it is a blast to be in church. And that not to forsake the assembling of yourselves together, because it's awesome. I am so amazed that I'm going to go home and call everybody I know and tell them how many people are in church. Because this is awesome. Pastors brag about that, you know. I used to tell them how many people you running. I'd say, well, between 200 and 300. The number is between 200 and 300. There's different ways of. So the word I want to share with you, last year has been a year of change. This year is a year of capacity. I want to share with you about capacity because it's not easy to increase your capacity. We're going to have to make that children's area bigger than it is. I'm not blaming anybody for making it too small. I'm just saying it was a wonderful start. But I think we need to have something that almost rivals Knott's Berry Farm for kids. You think I'm joking? We need to have an amazing place. I mean, Western Town, come on. This will be awesome. If I was a kid, I wanted to just go back there. So we're going to do that this coming year, increase our capacity for children. We're going to increase our capacity for youth. Youth in this place are amazing. There's high school students that took a load of wood to needy people. Bo texted me. He's not worried about this country going forward because there's people like that coming on. And I think it is amazing. We need to support them, engage them, and involve them in this church at a level that they're not yet seen. More about that later when we get back from our vacation. But outside these walls is where we have to focus as well. Because capacity for the church is great to make this facility handle what we need to handle and do the ministry, need to do the ministry. But we need to increase the capacity within us individually. That's why we're handing you beef today, so when you go out the door. So you can take that to a needy neighbor and knock on the door and say, hey, our church gave out lean beef today. Would you like some? The Lord has blessed us. We'd like to bless you. It's simple as that. And just establish it. I know you guys have great neighbors already. We're changing the structure of worship, and I love to hear you sing today. And what we're going to do is make it. It's a new deal. We're going to have leaders, not one leader, but we're going to have 3 or 4 leaders with teams, and I can meet with those leaders, and we can set direction. And you, who can carry a tune in a bucket, will be on one of those teams. And I heard there's different ones out there that play accordions, kazoo, I don't know. We're going to engage in worship, though, as a body. And we are not a presentation church. We're a church that is about being involved. And so we're asking you to pray for that and help that take place. We're having meetings about that this week. So it'll be a hoot, okay? Same thing goes. One of our guiding values is to serve as teams. So that's why that is in place. The second team I want to develop is speaking team, local speaking team. So get ready. I'm going to speak mostly because I have to set direction for the church. But on occasion, we're going to develop speaking team that will not only help me with my sermons every week, but will help share the sermons when I need a break. It's a lot of fun. That way it's developed so that right now we're going to have some guest speakers coming in the next 2 weeks. My father-in-law, Stan Mishler, is coming to speak next week. He's 84 and nervous. But he loves you guys so much because he's been here and he worked with you guys on the wood project, and he's just like, I've never seen anything like it. I've got a word for that church, and I believe him when he says that. So he will be here next week. So make him feel welcome, and my mother-in-law too. And the next week, Boyd Powers is going to be here from the network office. We're part of a denomination of the Assemblies of God. He's one of our leaders, and he's a good dude, and he's a horse guy, and he used to speak here too. So anyway, he likes horses better than people. So that's his quote. Time to preach. Luke chapter 5, verse 4 through 11. And when he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into deep water and let down the nets for a catch." Simon answered, "Master, we have worked hard all night and haven't caught anything. But because you say so, I will let down the nets." When they had done so, they caught such a large number of fish that their nets began to break. So they signaled to their partners in the other boat to come over and help them. And they came and filled both boats so full that they began to sink. And when Simon Peter saw this, he fell at Jesus' knees and said, "Go away from me, Lord, for I am a sinful man." For he and all his companions were astonished at the catch of fish they had taken. And so were James and John and the sons of Zebedee, Simon's partners. Then Jesus said to Simon, "Don't be afraid. From now on you will fish for people." So they pulled their boats up on shore and left everything and followed him. I want to just share a couple of things about this capacity thing. Mature fishermen obey. Verse 5 struck me. Simon answered, "Master, we have worked all night and have caught nothing." I mean, we've worked all night. Have you ever done the graveyard shift? I did. I used to work graveyard at the sawmill. It was horrible. I was so lonely. I was the cleanup guy. I worked all night long, and I couldn't wait till the sun started to come up, and I'd see the first person. I just like almost hug them, but you don't hug sawmill people. But it's a lonely, lonely feeling to be. You think, I'm up all night and the rest of the world is sleeping. And then worse, on the weekends, we went to visit somebody. Lila and I went over their house for dinner after church, and I was used to a different schedule. And I was talking with the guy and having, I thought, a great conversation. And all of a sudden, I woke up and he was gone. I fell asleep mid-conversation. That's not the best thing to do. But graveyard shift is tough, and they had been fishing. They'd given it their all. They'd worked all night trying to catch fish. They were probably desperate. They had a quota to fill. They hadn't got any, and they were just having a tough time. You might be thinking, I've been working for the Lord a long time. I've been doing my best this past year. I went through the pandemic and everything, and you worked so hard, and now the Lord is going to ask of you to do some more stuff. And I'm just telling you, mature fishermen obey God. And obedience will come to you in those moments. It'll be those times when God asks you to do something and you're like Chuck wanting to go down that road that UPS won't go down. And it's like, I don't know about this, Lord. But Peter said, I've been working all night, but if you say so, I'm going to do it. That's mature fishing, okay? Have you ever fished with mature fishermen? A lot of them fish alone because they don't want you around. I was a little kid. My dad would take me to Gus and Jake Swanson's reservoir and go fishing. And we'd go there and fish. And we'd catch fish. And Dad would say, it's too small, we'll throw back. And I said, no, this is a fish. We can feed the family. And in his mercy, he'd let me keep my fish. And as an immature fisherman, I'd have a nice string of fish. And I'd come home to Mom. And they all tasted like reservoir. And so we kind of gave them to the cats. But a mature fisherman will be out there. You'll see him out here in Central Oregon. They'll be fly fishing. They'll catch a fish, and it'll be something beautiful, and they'll look at it. They say, oh, it's beautiful. Look at that. They'll take the hook out carefully, not to hurt it, and they'll release it. And if you're fishing by one of those guys and you're not a mature fisherman, you'll say, don't let that go. You can put it on your wall. Okay, so there's churches that are trying to gather fish to show people. There are Christians trying to gather. I'm not trying to be critical, but I'm just telling you, God's calling us to catch and release. Ooh. Did you hear that? We caught Jordan and Lacey and we released them. I'm 64. My day of release is coming. And I want you to take the hook out easy and let me go. You can take a picture if you'd like. 1017, wonderful ministry. It outgrew this church. It'll always be our kid, but it's off to college. And we're going to release it. And like college kids, we're going to have to fund it some way. You see the way to live? God is calling us to mature. And maturity isn't trying to gather, it's trying to release. You live that way with your families. It's wonderful. It's challenging and difficult. I cried all the way down the gorge, dropping off my daughter at college in Portland. I drove home to, well, it was Portland. But anyway, I was driving home to Montana. And I didn't know what was going on. I was just emotional, a wreck. I was crying, and my wife called me, how's it going? I don't know. I can't keep it together. Maturity and that kind of release, though, is not pain-free. Because Peter said, I've been working all night. I don't want to quit working. But, I mean, I am not catching any fish. And God said, do it, and he did it. Now, he releases them in obedience. Obedience brings capacity. You see, if Peter would have said to the Lord, I am just not going to do this anymore. I am done. Jesus, you're going to have to just call these fish out of the water. And I think he probably could. Whistled or something, and they'd all come out. But he wanted Peter to engage. See, obedience brings capacity. And I'm just telling you, you might feel like you've done the work. You've put in your time. And I'm telling you, there is a whole swath of believers in our culture today that just say, we've put in our time. It's time for the next generation to take it over. And we're just going to hit coast and drive off into the sunset. That is not biblical. And I'll call you out on it. Because you folks who've been working all night have something to offer the next shift coming in that they need. And I'm telling you, they need your support, encouragement, blessing, releasing. Okay, I'm meddling a bit. Peter needed some adjustment there because he was whining a bit. Anybody whine? 22? I've kind of whined a little. I whined to some of you today already. I said, how was your week? I said, it was great, but it rained so much over there in the valley. I'm just sitting here preaching. I think, I whined in the entry of the church. Come up here and preach against whining. I don't know if that's going to work. Peter said, I worked all night. I don't want to do it anymore. But if you say so, I'll do it. And then the capacity, then it was changed. Something shifted. There was a joy in him. Hey, come on over, other boats, I need you, because this is amazing. And he pulled in this huge catch of fish. I was talking earlier today. Honestly, I'm not making this sermon up as I get here, but I was talking earlier, and they said a year ago they were in an RV. I said, yes. We were too. Lila and I were in an RV a year ago, remodeling our house to live in. And it was a wonderful experience until we had like a foot of snow this time last year over there in the valley. And you know what happens over there when it snows. And so we ran out of propane in the middle of the night. And Lila didn't go out and change the propane tank. I did. I was freezing. And I was like, I can't wait to get in this house. Walk in the house, and the rain had come down so much, and that thaw, that the kitchen ceiling, all that we had nailed up, and it was nice tongue and groove, really beautiful kitchen, cabinets were in, it all came crashing down. And I walked in, there's like, and water's running down the walls, and $10,328 worth of cabinets we're getting, not that I care, we're getting wet. And I started drilling holes in the ceiling so it wouldn't cave down more, and just a stream of water came down every time I drilled a hole. Then I had to drill a hole in the floor to let it go through the floor. I was back in the demo time. I was just sitting there by the fire the other day. And I was just looking at the place, thinking about those days. But now we have capacity. I had all my grandkids there and all my in-laws there. And it was just, we were full. And we had capacity. See, for you and I to make the impact that we're supposed to make in this world, there has to be some remodeling done in us to create the capacity that God wants for his church. Yeah. And we want to create a kids' church area that's going to be amazing, and we want capacity for, we'll probably have to do something in here. I don't know what we'll have to do, but that's physical capacity. But God is calling us first to create a capacity for him in our personal life that is about us. See, our guiding values are to be safe and sent and spiritually awake, and we have to be service teams and submitted one to another, all those good things as a church. But there's no such thing as a safe church. It's all just a bunch of safe people. And there's no such thing as a church that has great capacity. There's just a church full of people that have remodeled themselves to make capacity for God to use them. This might mess your life up because it's awkward and painful and not easy. But it's worth it. And it's obedience. Mature fishermen obey. Obedience brings capacity. And then the last thing I want to talk about, and this is the cool part. For he and all his companions were astonished at the catch of fish they had taken. Everybody there was like astonished. Capacity is astonishing. I'm just telling you, when you make it to someone's world and you give them a blessing from God, or you interact with them, or you make me have a prayer with them, or just an encouraging word, there is times when they will say they're astonished that you would care to talk to them. This is the calling of the church. The public will be amazed at Jesus. I don't really want to make us famous. I want to make Jesus famous. I don't really want to make myself like, oh, isn't he great? No, I want people to know Jesus loves them. And if we can just accomplish that by working in the life of someone, interacting with someone, loving them, helping them. And I know I'm preaching to a church full of people like this. I saw the Wood Day, and the 2 Wood Days, or 3. I don't know how many you've done. Can I just tell you what God has done in your church and the culture of blessing others? I'm quoting Jordan here. He says, Joe, he said, if you get here, it's just like this place is going to take off because the people there are so amazing. You know why you're amazing? Because you're willing to be remodeled. Let's pass out the communion. As we pass out the communion, I want us to follow up on the assignment of the greeting time. The assignment of the greeting time was to share with somebody a blessing God has given you this past year. The follow-up to that is, and they're both prayers, is to ask God for something this coming year. Okay? I don't know what it is. It can be personal. It can be big. It can be little. I just want us to put something in our heart. Say, God, I see that this might take place, and I want this to happen. Go ahead and play. Now, as you pass this communion out, once it gets served to everyone, I will lead us in that prayer. There was a great moment in the world. It's when Jesus met with his disciples on Passover night. He was getting ready to remodel them. Let me explain what he did. Thank you. In Luke 22, verse 19, it says, he took the bread, gave thanks and broke it and gave it to them, saying, this is my body given for you. Do this in remembrance of me. In the same way, after supper, he took the cup, saying, this cup is the new covenant in my blood, which is poured out for you. A new covenant. See, the old stuff isn't going to work, guys. Geez, I'm paraphrasing. The old law isn't going to work. The old trying to make kingdom here on this earth, it's bigger than that. It's eternal. And for you to understand that there's a new covenant, a new relationship. Man. Just with our heads bowed, would you just quietly ask God for something this coming year? And if it takes remodeling in your own life, so be it. Maybe your prayer is that God would do that for you in an area. It's all good. It's all good. Thank you, Lord, for this time together. Thank you for the new covenant. Thank you for new things. Thank you for this new year. Thank you for this new life. Help us to be willing, Lord, to obey you and to be mature fishermen, to be mature in the remodeling of our lives so that we can make the difference for you that you've called us to. Thank you for this church. Thank you for the children of this church and the youth and the older set. I just thank you for all of us. Lord, as we sit together, we're so grateful to be together. And as we obey you in this ordinance of taking communion, Lord, we want to obey you more in just our living in our life, that it would be useful to you. So, Lord, give us capacity that we need today. And bless these emblems as we take it together. In your name, amen. Let's take it together.